Does it feel a little bit like after media days are over, like now we can finally go, like you've finally been through the toll booth or you've finally been through the turnstile, and now we're actually on our way toward the season? 40 days from kickoff, Zach Blackerby.
Yeah, just a few weeks away from, we assume, fall camp getting underway. And yeah, you could feel it. It does feel different. It does feel different. So I'm glad SEC media days are behind us for several reasons. But the main one is because football is just so close away, which is exciting.
We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, this episode will be a little more offensively geared, as you can see there on the right-hand side of the screen. But first, takeaways from media days and thoughts on Auburn being voted 10th in the SEC.
You see, okay, Auburn is 10th, and you see the list, and it's like, wow, Auburn's in the bottom half, but I don't hate it. I think it's about right. Georgia, Texas, Bama, Ole Miss makes sense. LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, Oklahoma. I'd put all of those teams above Auburn. Probably not that order, but I'd put all those teams above Auburn. And then I think this next tier, you could put Auburn anywhere. A&M, 9th, Auburn voted 10th. Mm-hmm. Kentucky, Florida, South Carolina, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. A&M, Auburn, Kentucky, and Florida, I think you could put in any order that you want. The way the media voted, of course, they have Texas A&M one spot ahead of Auburn, which, of course, that is a very, very important game for the Tigers as they host Texas A&M, and that's going to decide a big chunk of the season as far as what the standings look like when it's all said and done.
If Auburn won last year's game at A&M and finished 4-4 in the league, and A&M had finished 3-5, I think they'd have put Auburn first, because that's the pattern. Whether they knew it or not, the media picked the SEC in order basically by the way they performed last year. In other words, if you take Texas and Oklahoma out, and they're just guessing where they're going to slot in, but if you just take the 14 teams from last year, there's not one instance in which a team is picked ahead of a team in this poll, but had a worse conference record last year. So if you finished 4-4 last year, you're picked higher than all the teams that finished 3-5 last year. If you finished 3-5, you finished above the teams that finished 1-7. So again, whether it's intended or not, the group think is a lot better at reflecting than it is projecting. Yeah.
Missouri would be higher, right? That's the only difference. Missouri would be higher.
Missouri finished 6-2 in the league last year.
What did LSU finish?
6-2.
Okay, I didn't realize they were tied.
Was 6-2.
Wow, I didn't realize they were tied.
Yep.
LSU had a better year last year than I remember, but makes sense.
Did.
They had a Heisman winner. So yeah, I mean, then that's the case. And then Tennessee was one game worse, correct?
Tennessee was either a game worse or the same,
or they went 6-2. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, this is kind of what the feel was. Oklahoma surprised me. I thought the general feeling of Oklahoma was higher than how they were voted. I thought they were getting a little overhyped, and now I'm like, oh, okay, that's about where I think they're going to finish. So I didn't mind that, but that does. I mean, if you're a person who gets ticked off by this sorts of thing, don't.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal,
right?
The people who voted for Vandy, it's funny. It's not disrespectful or a joke. It's funny.
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter.
South Carolina got a first place vote.
Yeah, nobody's mad about that one. Like, okay, come on.
It's evidence you're not taking it seriously. By the way, Tennessee 4-4 in the league last year.
Okay, wow.
I didn't realize that. If you had told me LSU and Tennessee, one was 6-2, one was 4-4, I would have inverted them. I would have gotten those wrong.
Really interesting. Yeah. So, but that's a great point, though. I mean, this really is reflective of last year's standings. And it doesn't really play out that way. So if you're one of those folks that gets upset, they're like, oh my goodness, how is Auburn 10th? Hold your breath.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to be right.
I will say for this year, I don't mind being picked 10th because I'm just highly confident they'll finish better than the 10th best team in the SEC. I would like to say, though, that in future, I don't want to be picked 10th every year. Obviously, you want to get back into the world where you're being
based
picked.
Off of this, you're going to get picked to finish where you finished the previous year. Right. So if Auburn finishes 8th this year, they're going to be projected to finish around 8. going into next year, which is that fair or not? I don't know.
It is the way it works, though.
It is the way it works. But you look at the teams that are around Auburn, and they're the most important games on Auburn's schedule. So Auburn is one spot ahead of them is Texas A&M. We just mentioned one spot behind them is Kentucky. 2 spots ahead of them is Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's that tier of teams where if you're Auburn and you want to say, I don't want to be 10th, beat those teams around you. Because all of a sudden, if you beat those 3 teams and the teams ahead of you beat each other up, I mean, you've got a chance to, when it comes from a strictly standings point of view, you'd be 6, 7, middle of the pack, assuming your 2 losses. And if you win those 3 games, your 2, maybe losses would be Bama and Georgia. And if you could somehow pull it off where you're 6-2 in the conference, you're 3rd, 4th, 5th, depending on, what happens at the top.
Yeah, there were 6 teams that either went 3-5 or 4-4 last year. I mean, the margin is just crazy. We were at a staff retreat all day today, and one of the things that they pointed out was the fact that like the average difference in major championships in golf is like 2.2 strokes. It's like half of a stroke a day over the last decade in major championships. You win one more game, you have one more touchdown drive, one more clutch field goal, one more defensive stop. And it's the difference between 4-4, 3-5, or 6-2 and 5-3. And that's where everybody is in this league. Everybody's so close, or there's a large group that are close. There is some separation at the top, and that's where Auburn's trying to get. But there's a huge group where there's just not much separation there, and one play can make a difference.
And also, since you pointed out this list is finished, or it's based off of where Auburn finished a year ago, the bar that has been set from last year to this year offensively is just night and day different. We think, because that bar is so low, Brad. It's so low. And I was listening to another show earlier today, and I wish I could remember what it was. It was a Locked On show. They were making the case of like, okay, can this offense be a touchdown better than it was a year ago? It was Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I'm like, probably not. That's a lot, because Oklahoma was good last year. Offensively, they were fine. But you think about like a touchdown better a game, that's tremendous. That is a lot. But I was thinking, like, I don't think it'd be crazy for Auburn to be a touchdown better, because the offense was so bad a year ago. And to me, it's just, if you can add that, even if it's like 5 points, which would be almost underwhelming, because like I think we're expecting a little bit more this year because of Hugh Freeze and Payton Thorne and Jarquez Hunter. We'll talk about them in a second.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you probably add 2 or 3 wins. And then that's kind of what we're talking about if it all comes together.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. And I do want to get into that a little bit more. It starts with the running game. And so more after this message about our friends at Roback. All right. If you have not ordered Roback yet, you're going to want it as a part of your fall wardrobe. It's going to stay hot for a while longer. You need a new polo. You need a unique print. You see these pop up everywhere now. Roback does it better than everybody else. They've also got just the straightforward prints if you want a little more, sort of subtle style. They have hoodies. You're going to want those for when the weather does turn cooler. They have quarter zips. They have a lot of stuff. And they've given our viewers a special exclusive code, Vice20. When you go to roback.com and use that promo code at checkout, Vice20, they'll give you 20% off. These shirts cost a little more than what you're going to get at a big box store, but I think they're appropriately priced. They fit.
Worth it.
They feel incredible, and they look fantastic too. So if you haven't tried it, try it. You'll be glad you did. Roback.com, 20% off using our promo code Vice20 exclusively for Villagers. Okay. When we talk about the offense being bad a year ago, we're talking about the ability to put points on the board. We're talking about the pass offense. The running game ranked 24th nationally and returns Jarquez Hunter and Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb.
Yes.
And we believe that the offensive line is better.
Keep it coming. Let's go.
And we believe the cohesion and the consistency of the identity of the offense is better because the head coach has now brought in two guys that he's familiar with and the terminology all meshes.
Yeah,
So,
you brought in pass catchers where I don't think you're going to be able to stack the box. I think
yeah.
defenses are going to have to play the run better. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, that we need to be paying attention to, Brett, how many times in hindsight last year did we turn around and look to the past, look at Coach Freeze's previous comment to be like, he said this. Like, he told us this weeks ago. We just blew past it.
Right.
And he just said it. He met with some media the night before he spoke at SEC Media Days. And then he said a lot of the same stuff again, just for a different crowd. But he echoed the same thing over and over and over again. Jarquez Hunter.
Yeah.
Elite running game. Better offensive line. Jarquez Hunter. Jarquez Hunter. Nobody's talking about Jarquez Hunter. And I just think this is one of those things where, like, I think he's just being really honest with us. I don't think this is just him gassing up his players. I don't think it's him trying to sell more season tickets. They're already sold out. He already did that. Good job, coach. To me, I think he firmly believes Jarquez Hunter's about to do something special, and he's the best back in the SEC. I believe that Hugh Freeze believes that.
Yeah.
And he's been very honest and very aware of what his roster is and has been as soon as he stepped foot on campus. And I just think we need to listen to him.
Yeah. Well, and running the ball is still so important to have success in the SEC. We were talking before we talked about Roback that could you add a touchdown a game? Last year, Auburn averaged 26.2 points a game.
Yeah.
That was 70-something in the country. If you can add a touchdown a game, can you get to that's 33. Can Auburn average 32, 33 points with the passing game complementing the running game of Jarquez Hunter and Damari Alston and the big play? All three of those guys, Hunter, Alston, and Cobb, have the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. They have the ability to make explosive plays in the run game and the pass game. So they're home run threats. I don't think that's too far-fetched to say they could get up to 32 or 33 points a game.
And I just want some people, okay, like, what does that mean? Right? The stats. And so a lot of our folks watched a lot of it. Like Texas A&M's offense last year was fine. It wasn't great, but just so people kind of know what we're talking about, A&M was 1, 2, 3, 4. They were 5th in the conference in points per game, and they had 33.
Yeah.
Missouri was after that with 32. We just mentioned Tennessee earlier in the show, who didn't have a great year in conference play, and they scored 31.8. So just so, like, folks kind of know what we're talking about here, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Is Auburn going to be a full touchdown better? Probably not. But I do think they're going to average 30 points per game.
Yeah.
And that kind of just, it makes it, I don't know, you have a modern offense at that point.
Yeah. Jarquez Hunter is averaging 6.2 yards a carry for his career. And that's against Georgia, and that's against LSU, and that's against top defenses in addition to the other teams that don't have such great defenses. He's averaging 6 yards a carry, averaged over 5.5 yards a carry last year. Hugh Freeze says you got to average 4 yards on first down to be successful. So I think that offensive line and an experienced and a hungry Jarquez Hunter can be an absolute key to this offense showing tremendous real improvement this season.
Yeah, and those numbers with Jarquez also include, just the offense not setting him up early in the season, where it's just like Auburn, it seemed like they couldn't do anything to create any sort of separation against Cal early on. And then over the course of the season, they opened it up, and there was a stretch there where they were really getting it going on the ground. So it's there. It's certainly there. And I don't know, especially early on, that teams are going to know necessarily how to defend Auburn, because I think the offense is going to look a lot different. I think both in execution and in scheme and in personnel. So, like a team that's coming out like a Cal or like Arkansas in week 4, it's going to be interesting to see how some of these early teams choose, like, which option in the offense is the priority? Like, do they just go all in and shut down Coleman, or do they focus on Rivaldo Fairweather, which is my guess?
Yeah.
Or do they go towards the veteran and Keandre Lambert-Smith, who got a lot of praise from his quarterback at SEC Media Days? And so to me, I think you're going to see different defenses come at it in different ways in Auburn's first few games of the season. And that'll be fun to see.
Yeah, because you can't double team everybody. You can't focus on everybody. You can't pay special attention to Cam Coleman and Rivaldo Fairweather and Keandre Lambert-Smith and Jarquez Hunter. You can't do that defensively. And so that leaves guys in opportunities to make people miss one-on-ones, whether it's Jarquez with a tackler, you make him miss, and then we've seen what he can do with his explosiveness, or the tight ends or the receivers in one-on-one matchups there. You get a chance to win a 50-50 ball and make a play. And there are just more opportunities for that on the field this year.
Yeah, and obviously that helps out Payton Thorne. We'll talk about him in just a moment here on Village Vice. But, okay, want to tell you about our friends at mybookie.ag. It's the best place to really just check out a virtual casino. Yeah, they've got the sports book. Be sure to check that out, all the parlays and tons of things to wager on. But they've got the virtual casino where you can have the live dealer interaction with blackjack from the comfort of your own home. They've got the progressive jackpot slots. They've got all sorts of ways that you can play. So head over to mybookie.ag and use promo code NEXTROUND. That'll give you some extra money to wager with. And you'll also get a list of VIP perks as well when you use promo code NEXTROUND. It's at mybookie.ag. I'll tell you what, Brad, Payton Thorne made the rounds on Thursday, and I talked to several folks up and down Radio Row afterwards. He won some folks over. The level of confidence that we saw from Payton Thorne this past Thursday to what we saw of him even towards the end of last season, when it kind of felt like it was a done deal and he finally did hold off Robbie Ashford in that quarterback battle and that weird quarterback rotation that we saw over the course of last season. And look, I interviewed him very early on, and he seemed like a different person when I talked to him that first interview versus when I talked to him on Thursday. He seemed like a different human being, a different quarterback, almost stoic in the sense of like he has that calm confidence. It's what Auburn needs. It's what Auburn needs behind center.
Put yourself, those of you watching, put yourself in any life situation in which you were trying to find you were trying to find that place where you were comfortable and confident. And think about how different you were then, sort of in the beginning as you're feeling your way through, whether it's a new job or a new city or whatever it may be. And then that place where you felt more comfortable, confident, locked in. You're like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
That's how Payton looked at media days.
I think so.
Right. And there are a lot of reasons for it. When he was asked about it, the first thing he said was off-season work and preparation. That's where his confidence comes from most. Off-season work and preparation. Wasn't here spring a year ago. So now it's a full season. It's another spring. It's another summer of workouts. It's familiarity with. Think about this, Zach. If you are still on the Payton Thorne will be no better than 23 train, here are the things you have to disregard. You have to disregard that Derek Nix and Kent Austin are in, and that there's more attention to detail and more cohesion and a clearer identity. You have to disregard that, say it'll make no difference at all. You have to disregard the improvement of the wide receiver core, or you think they won't be improved. You don't think Robert Lewis or KLS or any of these freshmen make the receiving room any better. Okay. You have to believe both those to be true. And you have to believe the offensive line isn't any better. And you have to believe the running back room isn't any better, despite the room being exactly the same with another year of experience, with obviously the exception of Brian Betty. So Zach, you have to believe all of those things are in place, that none of those improvements are made for Payton to be to not make a jump from last year.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to really do some mental gymnastics to make that case. Now, is he good enough that, I think that's where your argument needs to be. But for the folks that say you can't win with Thorne, it's like, I think you missed the point. I think you missed the entire point of the offseason. If that's what you're so focused on, is he going to be a top 3 quarterback in the conference? My guess is no. But that's not the way this roster is built. And when you look at Auburn's schedule, that's not what they need him to be. But yeah, and you kind of alluded to it just then, but last year, about halfway through, a big storyline throughout all of college football was the growth of the second-year transfer quarterback. We saw it with Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
Saw it with Daniels, who won the Heisman, Bo Nix, I guess Caleb Williams. Just trying to go through, the
Brady Cook
list.
at Missouri.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And Peyton's not getting any of that.
No, he's been written off.
Is weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. And once again, I think context is important, and I think proper expectations are important. Is Peyton going to win the Heisman?
No.
Probably not. Probably not. But can he help Auburn win 9 games? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think he can.
Yeah.
I think
because no quarterback is out there doing it by himself.
There are a few exceptions, but sure.
Yeah.
For the most part, you're correct. Yes.
Because of all those things we just mentioned. I thought it was interesting, too. He praised Robert Lewis specifically and some others for their attitude toward work. And, sounded like maybe a little more affinity for the process of doing what it takes to be consistent.
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of voluntary workouts last year, and I saw him stay after with Rivaldo a fair amount. And it was not a surprise that those two were a real popular combo. There's a chemistry that develops. And it sounds to me like maybe the Auburn quarterback already has better chemistry with a handful of his new receivers.
Yeah. Yeah. A-Day, Cam Coleman seized all of the A-Day headlines.
Yeah.
But quietly, Robert Lewis led Auburn in receptions A-Day.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's really, talking about it except for us. We talk about it. So, I think Auburn's in a good spot. I think Auburn is in a good spot. SEC Media Days, I think they checked all the boxes for sure. So, Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Listen, tell your friends, share the show with others, subscribe. It is really exciting as we count down this 40 days before Auburn football is back. Everybody has vices. Remember that. Everybody has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.